You're welcome back. This is Newsfile. It's your most authoritative news analysis platform. And here on Newsfile, we put Ghana first. Many thanks to Professor Kwesi Ening of the Kofi Annan International Peacekeeping Training Center. And now let's deal with the question of independent MP candidates. That phenomenon, good or bad, and will they survive? In the Fourth Republic, we've had one or two at each time or at some times. It looks like if things go the way of independent candidates, particularly those who have moved away from their parties, then the next parliament will see a good number of independent candidates. How will they survive, particularly the political establishment? Joining us to help us with that discussion also is Dr. Emmanuel de Graaf Johnson Owusu-Ansah, Department of Statistics and Actuarial Science, KNUST. Dr. Owusu-Ansah, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
Right. Now let's begin with Dr. John Osai-Kwapong, political scientist and member of the ARIS Research Consortium. Now, last week, this was a major subject matter that you were to assist us to look at. So, before we get into that question, can we quickly ask about what is happening to the Formina MP on the MPP ticket in the House, and who has now decided to go independent? Let's listen to Haruna Iddrisu, the minority leader, and then Osei Mensah-Bonsu, the majority leader, and come to pick your thoughts quickly on that and use that to get into the discussion of minority MPs.
We are studying the Formina case very well, and we are studying it within the meaning of Article 112, marrying it with the provisions of Article 94, whether he has become independent. He did not walk to Parliament as independent. What his status would be within Parliament is a matter that we are studying very carefully with our constitutional law advisors. Leaving means he took a voluntary act. This is an involuntary act. That's why I say we are studying it. When we are conclusive with our finding, we make public what we think, whether he should be vacating his seat or he should continue to be a member of Parliament. I understand that there's some correspondence to the Speaker of Parliament.
Have you seen it?
I haven't seen it yet. Once we study it, we'll study it within the context of Article 112 and 94.
Well, I'm told that there's the regional party of MPP has written to the Speaker. I saw a communication to me that they've copied the letter to me, but I've not received my copy. So this morning the Speaker called to see me, and I thought maybe it was going to deal with that matter. Unfortunately, it dealt with some other matter other than that one. So I asked him, and he said yes. His attention has been drawn to it, but he's pondering the content of the letter. Now, because we were in a hurry to come to the chamber, I did not really interrogate it further to know what he meant by still pondering over it. So that's what I know about it. The letter is now written to me. It's written to the Speaker. So if there is any response, it should come from the Speaker and not me.
But
the Speaker is saying that he's going to ponder over the issue. For now, because the letter is not addressed to me, respectfully, I cannot comment.
Right. So, Dr. Osai-Kwapong, what do you say?
So the issue for me is, now I have to put out a disclaimer. I'm not a constitutional expert. I'm not a constitutional lawyer. So I cannot answer the constitutional question. But I think that on the political question of how should a political party then respond to such a phenomenon, I have a bias. I have a bias in terms of, I believe that political party establishments within reasonable limits and within the confines of the law, should be able to do things that protects the interest of the party. And so coming from that admitted bias in terms of how I view the way party establishments do things, then I do share the sentiment of, if you came into parliament on the ticket of our party and you have decided to change course, then it is only right that as a political party, we demand that you leave and go and pursue that independent route. But like I said, that is my bias in terms of party establishments trying to protect party interests. The constitutional question, that I would leave to the constitutional experts to answer that.
All right. Let's hear what Dr. Uso Ansah has to say about it. Professor Kweku, Stephen Kweku Asare, Kweku Asare has written about this, and he has a conclusion that suggests that if you look at the law or the particular constitution provision, it says that if he has left to be independent and, quote, remains in parliament, unquote, he says that suggests that the law contemplates the current parliament of which he is a member, but not a future parliament where the phrasing would have been to, quote, become an independent member of the next parliament, unquote. Then he does a soccer analogy. He says in soccer terms, merely because a player wants to graduate to the Premier Club next season does not mean he has vacated his position with his current club. He remains a member of the Win Nothing Kotoko, even though he wants to become a member of the Win Everything Phobia. Interesting enough, the law imposes no such restrictions on the executive, thereby allowing, he gives another scenario altogether. But his point clearly is that what has happened does not trigger the constitutional provision where the Constitution expects a voluntary act of one deciding to cross carpet or leave their party. In this case, he just signaled that he wants to go independent, and if he wins, he will become an independent member of parliament for the next parliament, the 8th parliament, and not the current one. It is his party that says once you have taken this decision, you lose your membership, and therefore have written to parliament to ask that his seat be declared vacant. The speaker, we are told, is thinking about it. Let's see what happens. Yes, so Dr. Uso Ansah, what do you say about that issue?
Yeah, Samson, good morning to your listeners again. I have actually read what Prof wrote, the deliberations that other lawyers have also made. Actually, let me also put out the disclaimer, I'm not a law expert, so we are actually learning from what our learned lawyers are saying. Now, if you look particularly to what Prof Kweku has actually wrote, one of them, let me quote him, and I quote, say, furthermore, does the law concern itself with future intentions or current actions? If the former, then he has clearly vacated his position. So what he said was that if the law actually has to deal with future intentions, then the MP has vacated his position. I'm also of the view that the party has the right also to protect its interest, of which that they want the laws within the party to work. So for them to write to parliament, that's a more reason why a lot of the lawyers have said this is a novel case. But there is a remark that I would like to make here. If you take Joe Wise in 2008, the first Speaker of Parliament went to Parliament as an independent candidate. In 2012, he stood on the ticket of the MPP. So if what Prof wrote, if the law is concerned itself with future intentions, then Joe Wise should have left Parliament at that time. because he made his intention known. He filed for Parliament before that Parliament was actually went on recession. So his intention was known at that time. This is also going to create a problem for future. For instance, you have a lot of people who are going independent, as we are going to discuss, because they'll be frustrated one way or the other on the political, in their political party. So in the near future, if they also want to go on the ticket of their political party was in parliament, then what Prof wrote, if the law is actually, the law concerns itself with future intentions, then all those people also have to resign from parliament. So actually, I'm not a law expert, but that is my take. That is how I see it. If this goes through, we are going to create this precedent, and it will be part of us for the future to come.
Okay. What does Kwaku Baakor have to say about this also briefly before we go to the other debate? And we have candidates who are breaking away and saying a number of things. This candidate says, I cannot disappoint the people of Bekwai by stepping down. That is MPP, that's the heading of the story. I cannot disappoint the people of Bekwai by stepping down. MPP stalwart going independent. Former MPP parliamentary aspirant, Mr. Kwesi Amofa Ajiman, former parliamentary aspirant, okay, who was disqualified from contesting the incumbent member of parliament, Mr. Joseph Osei-Wusu, in the Bekwai constituency, has said that he cannot back down his decision to contest independently, as it will be a disappointment to the people in the constituency. Explaining why this is so, he said that I cannot disappoint the people of Bekwai stepping down. When I made my intentions of going independent clear, a lot of people registered for their voters' ID. So imagine if I step down, probably some people may have wanted to register in Accra, but they registered in Bekwai because of me. According to him, the people in Bekwai have faith in him, and they know he has the compassion and the vision to lead the people. And he just referred to that constituency where Joe Wise, contested as independent and won, and now is with the party.
Well, a very intriguing situation. But one thing is clear to me. In terms of his party membership, I don't think there's a debate there. He's forfeited it relative to their party's constitution. So there isn't any debate there at all. If you read the content, the text of the party constitution. The problem is with the parliamentary representation. It's a very, very novel situation, especially the point that Prof made. Parliament is still in session.
That's right.
It's not on recession. So that's a very tricky area. But you see, let me do this. When he gets to Parliament, assuming he has to go to Parliament before Parliament goes on recess, where would he sit? Who would he sit with? He would decide where to sit.
You mean the few months they have left?
Yes.
He will sit with the party. Because that's where he is, or because
he's forfeited his membership now.
Okay.
And you know the kind of parliament we have structurally. It's majority, minority. And if he decides to sit with the minority, would that not imply he's crossing carpet in the circumstances in which we have in our parliament? Meanwhile, he cannot sit with the majority, which is now even one party majority, not like previously. Okay? So I would really want to wait and see what the speaker says. But it's a novel situation, a very interesting one. It's unlike the Seni Wayo, all those cross carpeting. This is peculiar. He hasn't crossed carpet in parliament. He hasn't resigned his seat also in parliament. It's a very novel situation. But I'm inclined to sympathize with the party in terms of the decision taken. Otherwise, you could promote opportunism, political opportunism, barefaced political opportunism.
There are just less than 2 months left.
But there's still parliamentary business.
Why don't they allow him to finish and take his ex gratia?
The ex gratia he will take.
Will he take it?
Yeah, the quantum may not be what exactly, but he will take. He's entitled to
if he has not completed the term, will he be entitled?
No, he's entitled to it.
Really?
Yes, because you see, who is the speaker's decision. He's entitled. He's performed some service. Maybe I need to do some more education and research on that. But he has performed some almost 3.5 years, if not more.
That's right.
Yes, and you cannot say that is forfeited.
No,
I'm
but
not sure.
if you are in an employment and you get dismissed, you lose your entitlement.
I'm not sure that's parliamentary how it goes. Look, well, I have to be very careful.
Okay.
I need to do some research on that. Yeah.
All right. Okay. Right. So let's return to Professor Osai Kwafong and look at the question of the independent parliamentary candidate and how that phenomenon may be good or not good. What's your take on that?
Okay, so as for contextual purposes, I just want to share a few numbers with you with regards. I want to share a few numbers with you with regards to independent candidates in our electoral space. And again, I want to give a lot of credit to our colleague, Dr. Musa Khalid, who's been leading our work with myself and Dr. Theo Achiampong on looking at these constituency analysis, et cetera, et cetera. So the issue of independent candidates is not very new where our elections are concerned. So if you go back to 1996 and you look through to 2016, we've had anywhere from 53 independent candidates on the ballot for an MP seat to the highest number was in 2004, which was 125. If you look at the percentage of independent candidates as a total of all independent candidates running for the MP seat, I did some research quickly last night and was able to get total number of candidates who vied for a given MP seat. It averages around 8%. So over the last six, seven elections, you'd get an average 8% of the contestants contesting as independents. In terms of the actual seats won, 2000 you had 4 independents winning, 2004 1, 2008 4, 2012 3, 2016 0. We calculated a really simple success rate, and you have an average, your chances is somewhere just about 3% success rate when you talk about being able to win as an independent. So that's one. Then the other quick contextual point with regards to the numbers is if you look at it by region, and this is using the old regional configurations, Ashanti region tops in the number of independent candidates between 1996 and 2016. They have seen a total of 82 independent candidates, with the Upper West region seeing the least number, which is 17. The success rate, again, is 2% in Ashanti, but where we've seen some success is the Northern region, Upper East and Upper West, whose success rate is about anywhere between 5 to 6%. So the question of whether independent candidates running for office is a good thing or a bad thing, I think we would have to ask ourselves, good for who and what, and bad for who and what. And real quick, these are my points. If you, and Dr. Jemima Nunu, forgive me for citing Afrobarometer again, but if you look at Afrobarometer, consistently, there is about a third of respondents who say they do not feel close to any particular political party. So on the basis of that, I think if you have pure independent candidates running for MPs, it is good for the democratic process in the sense that there is a choice for citizens who would rather vote not on the basis of a political party, but are looking for another option. The other indicator I would cite again from Afrobarometer is there's a question about political parties are divisive. We need less. We need more political parties, therefore, so that citizens can get a bigger choice. Although it is not speaking to independents, if you look at, on the average, 6 out of 10 have consistently said more political parties so we can have more choice. So again, if there is the option of an independent, then for me, it is good for the democratic process. It is also good for citizens. The question of, then it comes to the political party, right? Because sometimes some of the phenomenon we see in this independent candidates is also the result of people who are not happy with the way a primary went and are therefore breaking away to run as an independent. If you look at the success rate of independent candidates, as a political party, if I were speaking as a representative of a political party, I would not be too worried about what that does for whether we would lose a particular seat in a constituency, or even the impact that it would have on the presidential election. Some of the constituencies that I've looked at, especially in Ashanti, even if the MPP candidate, for example, and the independent candidate who lost an MPP primary were to split the total number of votes in that constituency, they would the seat would not go to the opposition party, the NDC. The worrying thing for me is it's a lesson in terms of how political parties deal with the grievances and the challenges that result that results from the way party primaries are held and turn out. When someone loses a party primary, they have two options. They can accept, regardless of how the primary went, they can accept the outcome and say, look, whilst I am not terribly happy, party first, and therefore I'm okay. The other extreme is I am really upset, and therefore I am going to carry out that grievance way beyond the end of the primary, right? So if I could use a very specific example, I look at Mr. Kofi Ofosu, who lost a primary, right? For me, that's the gold standard for party first over my personal ambitions or personal interests. So if you followed his primary, in as much as he had grievances about the process, up to even the day of the party primary, once the elections were resolved, his immediate response was acceptance of defeat and pledge of support for the party to ensure the re-election of the president. For me, that is what political parties must find ways of ensuring that, one, the primary process doesn't leave lingering grievances that can carry through post the primary season, and what that does for party unity, party relationships, right? So that is where, for me, the independent phenomenon, especially if it is someone who lost the party primary, breaking away to run as an independent, that is where my biggest concern is. What does it do for the political party and how it relates? Because like I mentioned, Mr. Kofi Ofosu, this is someone who had every reason to do something like this, a very visible face of the party, a very visible voice of the party. And that is where I think political parties, one, must make sure that the rules of the game during the primaries is such a way that it doesn't leave lingering unresolved grievances and anger that can boil over into this, a party person turned independent to seek a parliamentary seat. So again, for me, those are the two dimensions. Right. As a matter of democracy and for citizens, it's a good thing if we have purely independent MPs running.
All right.
For political parties, they have an issue to deal with in terms of a party member turning independent, and that stems from how party primaries go. And I think that's what they need to really pay attention to.
Okay, let's hear from Dr. Usu Ansah briefly, and then we'll take a break, return to continue with this discussion and to also find out some of the problems that lead to individuals breaking away from their parties. We are clearly aware of the mudslinging, of the deliberate manipulations that get some of the people out. They get really angry. How some of the parties deliberately just gang up against a particular candidate and force them out in a way that becomes difficult to mend, you know, the cracks in that situation. But an important question will be, what is the point of the benefit in independent parliamentary candidature if they will go to parliament only to be forced to join either the minority or the majority? What's the difference? Yes, Dr. Zuansa, let's hear you briefly on this phenomenon and whether you think it is good or bad.
Okay, Samson, per the question that you just asked, one of the main reasons that parliamentarians go to parliament and they join either of the political parties is for the fact that for a long time we found it difficult to see our parliamentary exhibiting independent ideas different from what their political stand is. Because they all seem to toe the way that their political party wants them to be. So like helping them, you hardly get people who dissent views in parliament. So in that case, the people who come in as independent, as Prof actually just stated, they come in as independent candidate, not that they are independent candidates. It's because they might have one way or the other been frustrated or might have had an issue with their political party that has made them go independent. So ideology, in ideological sense, they still want to be part of the political party. So being asked to join any of the side, they already have that kind of ideology first. So they will join. But
Doc, we have the example of the late Hawa Yakubu, a towering independent figure. Of course, she ended up, you know, joining forces with the NPP. But there are people who can just, from the onset, go as independent. The question is, once they win as independent, how independent can they continue to be when the house is structured such that you must join the minority or the majority? We had Samia Nkrumah in a similar difficulty.
Yes, that is true. In as much as that you are forced to join any of the side on the eye of the parliament, you can still exhibit your independent nature. You do not necessarily have to go by the standard of the session that you've joined. But we've not seen that in them. We've not seen that in the independent candidates that we do have in parliament. As Prof said, Prof shared some statistics recently there. If you see Ashanti region, from 1996 to 2016, they've had 82 independent aspirants or candidates. Volta region has recorded 78.
In 2019,
go ahead.
Maritime.
It's okay. Sorry about that interruption. Go ahead.
These two regions are the strongholds of the various political parties. So if somebody comes from these particular regions, they are going to be aligned to the political stance in parliament. They don't exhibit that kind of independence. On your earlier topic, the one you talk about in the first segment, where Prof talk about there's lack of the perception out there by the electorate. They feel that the MPs do not represent their interests. They represent the interests of their political parties first. It's exhibiting here. If independent candidates will go to parliament to be independent, irrespective of which either they join, then we, the masses, will be able to see how independent they are. And then we can now go ahead and then we can make some kind of suggestion for maybe a constitutional review in the way that parliament sittings are for us to see the true nature of independent candidates in parliament. But we don't see that as we speak. Those who are going now, if they win and they have a chance to go to the next parliament, they are going to exhibit the same. They still aligned to their political masters. They don't exhibit independence of ideology, independent of even the way to vote. They don't exhibit that. So that is the kind of difficulties that we, the electorate, we do have on those matters.
All right. Please hold it there. Let's take a quick break. We'll return to continue this discussion. And this show is brought to you, as always, by Bank of Africa, strong as a group and close as a partner, MTN everywhere you go, Ashasi University, educating ethical and entrepreneurial leaders for Africa. Consolidated Bank Ghana, we stand with you. Duraplus, where Duraplus goes, water flows. We lead, we build home for you. Star Assurance, your solid partner, and Rehoboth Properties. We'll be right back.